Hi, everybody. My name is Tarang Lal. I am part of the class of 2011. I completed my bachelor's in chemical engineering, and I also recently am part of the class of 2020. I just completed my MBA from UCLA Anderson as well. I'm extremely excited to be talking to you today. I wanted to thank both Will and Bill for the opportunity to be here today as a speaker. I also wanted to thank all of you for your time and attention. This session will be about 30 to 40 minutes, and we will also be having a live Q&A session on July 6th. So I look forward to speaking to you then and answering any questions you may have. So with that, I'd like to get started. The purpose of today's call and today's meeting is really fourfold. We'll be doing an introduction. I'll be talking to you about some of my childhood, as well as my journey from childhood and going into UCLA. I'll spend a little bit of time talking about UCLA as a whole during the first 4 years. I think this was a really important phase in my life, and I also understand that this is currently the situation that a lot of you are in as you're going in the summer between your second and third year, or just finishing up your third year as well. And so I hope that there'll be some lessons that you can kind of see from here, and then also some parallels that you may already be doing based on kind of the information that I'm sharing. I'd then like to spend a majority of this call talking about the post-undergrad, and so that's really focused on my professional experience, whether that's in engineering. I've also pivoted. I've done some teaching, blogging, consulting, as well as going back to grad school. So I'll talk about those areas as well. And then lastly, I'll just leave you with some parting thoughts, as well as how I've tried to connect some of these dots. And as you also start thinking about your entire career, not just as kind of a destination, but more as a journey, just some of the things to look through and consider in that process. So that's our rough game plan for the next 30 minutes. Very much, again, appreciate your time and your attention. So I'll start here with kind of my backstory and also the road to UCLA. So you see here, there's different kind of pillars, I'll say. There's 3 pillars that you see sort of in the center. And then I've also got some other interests and hobbies and things that led me to UCLA specifically. So I'll kind of start in the middle of the slide first with my family. And like, many of you, you have strong relationships with your parents or your siblings. I too was very lucky and blessed to have a very strong family structure. Both my parents were very present in my childhood. I also have a younger sister that I love dearly. So the 4 of us have been, it's been a great journey growing together and kind of being part of the same culture. My parents also enjoyed the outdoors, and that was a big piece and a big influence of mine early on, whether that was hiking or whether that was, just being out in the wilderness. So this picture right here is from Yosemite. So very, very picturesque, and we loved kind of being in the outdoors. So I think that family structure, that bond, definitely helped ground me early on in my childhood, and served as a foundation as I continued building my career path from there. Moving over to the left side, I wanted to just touch on sports. So I think sports has had an impact on me, both in terms of physical well-being, but also more in the mental kind of framework, the mindset, right? When you think of like being quote unquote in the zone, things around that. So the picture here is me in high school with one of my good friends at the time. We just finished our tennis match, and we're just kind of hanging out on the court once we finished. So tennis to me was great because whenever, as a kid, I'd be like stressed out or things would be going on. I always knew that I could find kind of my safe space on the tennis court, and all the worries of the world would kind of vanish because all I'm focusing on is kind of that tennis ball, right? Just get it over the net, get it in the point, get it in the right placement, work my opponent, and win the point and eventually the match. And so I think sports was a great grounding for me as I was kind of going through my childhood into my teenage years. And then on the right side, of course, academics was a big part. My parents really pushed me on the academic side, right? It's always not about the grade, but about doing your best. And as I was going through grade school as well as high school, I started to realize that I enjoyed kind of the sciences and math. I'm sure many of you are also probably in this position where you enjoyed the academic side of things, and that's what led you to your career paths. So whether that was in, chemical engineering like myself, or whether it was electrical, computer science, a lot of us have passions that kind of we can trace back to our high school days that really have a profound impact. And then also on the teaching side, I had some really great teachers in high school that definitely got me excited about, photosynthesis, for example. That was something I was like, wow, plants can just, they're never hungry because they're out in the sun, and they just photosynthesize, get their glucose, and they're good to go. I was super excited about that. And then same thing with my chemistry teacher, right? When I think about like titrations, or I thought about different redox reactions, those things really like spoke a lot to me. It helped me like structure how I make sense of the world. We're all like, molecules and particles, atoms, then the nucleus with the electrons, protons. So I think a lot of those initial early interests of mine started to develop through grade school, and more so in high school. And so with that, I kind of thought through, okay, I want my career path to be in engineering, and therefore I want to pick a school that will, be really strong and recognized in engineering. And that was a big piece of UCLA for me. Thinking through the items on the bottom, I just wanted to touch upon a few of them, and happy to, again, answer questions on this when we meet in person. But the first there is a picture of a pizza slice. It's twofold. One, I love to eat, so I'm a huge foodie. So anytime there's new food, new cuisines, I'm all about that. So really, really excited about food. But the second reason, and probably more importantly, my first job while I was in high school was actually working at the local pizza shop. I was the dishwasher over there. And that taught me a couple of things. It taught me the value of, a hard day's work. And then it also helped me understand why it's important to go to college, what kind of opportunities I can get after college, and really help paint some of those picture and the lifestyle decisions that people have made, and what the impacts or consequences there might be. So, we all make decisions based on the information we have at the time we have it. This was something that was important for me to just realize that, college is something that I want to pursue. And I definitely don't want to always be the person washing the dishes at the pizza store. So that was a big piece. The hospital was also important to me. That was where I did a lot of my community service. So that was something that I enjoyed a lot. It was important because, again, it taught me about being on a schedule. It taught me about the importance of, being professional in a setting. In a hospital, for example, you're talking to people that, are obviously like in some sort of a crisis, or they've got some concern, they need help. So being efficient, how you communicate that, I think that was a skill that I definitely picked up while I was at the hospital. When I think through the Lakers, so I'm a huge basketball fan, huge Kobe fan as well. And the Lakers were definitely like a part of my childhood. I felt like I was growing up with Kobe in some ways, like, as they were going through the championships, and all the struggles of the years in between, and all the injuries that he suffered and things like that. So I think Lakers was a big piece of my childhood growing up. And it also like helped me think through, right, the Mamba mentality, and kind of how you approach situations, and like doing the best, leaving it all out in the court, things like that. And I applied that to my tennis game. I also tried to apply it into my academics. The next thing in there is the drums. So in high school, as part of the band, I would be on the drum line. And again, music, it helped me, again, give me a distraction from other things that were going on, because I knew when I was playing the drums, right, that was like my full focus. In my entire mind, I was fully present in that moment. Again, helping me ground, structure myself, and really serving a purpose beyond just the pure, like, actual act of playing the music, but the deeper meaning there. And then Coach Wooden. Coach Wooden definitely had an impact on me early on. I remember about reading about his pyramid of success, right, and how you can get to competitive greatness, and really that whole journey along the way. So I read that book, I think, when I was in 11th grade. And that kind of sparked my interest also for UCLA specifically, right? So I thought about like the Lakers. I'm a big Lakers fan. Coach Wooden, the history of basketball there, and kind of, again, the academics, being a strong engineering school. Those are the things that kind of drove me to picking UCLA over other schools that I'd gotten admitted into. So as I moved forward and went to UCLA, I think the 4 years of college were tremendously important to me. I felt like I grew up in a lot of ways during my undergrad. And even when I came back to UCLA, for the second time for the MBA, it was a very different experience, because these first 4 years of college was my first time away from home. a lot of personal growth. I also really plugged in and kind of thought through, that make the most of the moment, and got involved in lots of extracurricular activities, got involved in some undergrad research, like I imagine many of you are also involved with. And then of course the academics, right? You want to maintain a strong GPA, you want to be learning all the materials that you're there for, and the engineering curriculum is definitely challenging. So it was challenging for me as well, and definitely like something that I look back with a lot of pride now that I've actually gone through that process. So again, I'll start with the center here, and then I'll kind of work my way left to right. So on personal growth, I think there's two big call outs that I want to mention here. One is around finding kind of the love of my life, Jasmine, right? So I got a chance to meet her during undergrad. We've been dating for several years, and then recently we got married. And it's been an awesome journey. Like growing up with your life partner is a very special experience, and I'm very much grateful to have that happen at UCLA, and definitely a reason why I'm extremely like committed to being involved and being active within the program and the alumni association. So that was awesome, and a great experience, and continues to be a great experience as well. The picture on the left there under personal growth is of me in 2009. I just finished the LA Marathon. That was a huge moment for me because it was something that I kind of had set a goal. I trained for it. I overcame some adversity because I got injured about 2-3 weeks right before the race. And then I remember like really struggling through mile 21, mile 22 of the race when they say you kind of hit the wall. And I remember how I felt during that time, and how, you kind of like think through like that Adidas line, right? Impossible is nothing, like how you motivate yourself. I remember somebody in the fan yelling, "Don't forget number 60, 86, you are a winner." I remember like giving like a fake, very, very like slow thumbs up to her with all the energy I had, smiling and being like, yeah, you are a winner. Like you can do this. And in life, you're going to face times, where things, the odds seem to be stacked against you. We think again with that Mamba mentality, right? It's about finding the energy within at a time where you don't even think it's there. And like that to me was the marathon. That to me was breaking through the wall, as it were, and then really finishing that race strong. So a lot of great moments there, and a very powerful meaning to me by completing that race. Thinking about the extracurriculars and using that type of mindset, right, of being grounded, really going after things. I got heavily involved with both AHE, which is the Chemical Engineering Association at UCLA, and then also Engineers Without Borders. Possibly even more so with Engineers Without Borders. I had the chance to visit Central America twice, specifically Guatemala, where we were building rainwater tanks, and that was a great experience because it taught me about project management. I did some fundraising during that time, so I would, pitch at the Rotary Club. I also pitched at the EAA, association to get the grants for certain funding for, air travel and building the tanks. So that was again a very good experience. It taught me about being a professional. It taught me about being organized, being structured in how I approach things. Something that I have very fond memories of. And it also helped catapult me and got me the internship at P&G, which was the summer of my junior year. That was important because that was my first experience like working in corporate America. It was the first time that I had, like a job that I could consider like post undergrad. So that was a great summer. I got a chance to learn about root cause failure analysis, different machine equipment, compression, because we had compressors that were helping make soaps and surfactants that would go into like your Tide or other like P&G products. I also spent some time doing research in Dr. Cohen's lab. So again, in the chemical engineering side, he spends a lot of time focused on R&O, so like reverse osmosis. And so learning about different membrane filters, learning about the diffusion rates, understanding how you have salts that get collected, how you clean the membranes, and how you do this also not just manually, but in an actual system. So that was something that was important to me because I enjoyed learning about that area. I thought that it was something that I might pursue in the future. And it helped me also position my grad school story, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then of course the academics go without saying, right? A lot of long hours studying, great friendships that were made also though through the studying. And so and a lot of learning, of course. So that was something that I appreciated. I enjoyed, very much grateful for that, even though at the time, sometimes it felt like it would take forever, but really glad that I went through it. So the bottom there is just some of the takeaways from undergrad. And I think, again, for a lot of you, some of these might be similar, and you might have your own version of this. So by no means is this, fully extensive, but just something from your side. So being involved really helped me with my first job. So thinking through, AICE and EWB, helping me with the P&G internship, and then also my job after college, which was at Era Energy, which I'll talk about in the next slide. It was also my first time away from home, so learning how to cope with that, how to be independent, and that transition period. So the first part of freshman year was definitely a challenge. It was the first time, you don't have mom and dad to help you out. We talked about the close family structure that I had just in the previous slide. So definitely some impacts there. And then I also was able to complete the LA Marathon. I talked about the importance that meant. Met Jasmine as well, so my wife, and then the lifelong friendships just through the chemical engineering program, something that I'm sure a lot of you also through your engineering school are feeling as you're kind of going on. And I'm here to tell you that you definitely maintain those friendships, and it's a great lifelong kind of journey that you're on. So transitioning then into the focus for today is really like, what have I done since UCLA, so since 2011. This table's got a lot of information. You can also pause the video if you want to just read through this and at your own leisure. But I'm just going to talk through the main points, and then kind of really focus on those bottom takeaways. So I think the main thing I want to first say is you should see right away that there's a diversity of experiences, right? I've got engineering, which is what I did right after school, after UCLA undergrad. But then I also went to grad school, not just once, but twice. I got a master's in petroleum engineering. I also got an M.B.A. Then I've also done other things. I've been a teacher. I've taught at a math class at Taft Community College. I've been got an energy blog that I was doing for about 3 years called Tuesdays with Tarang. And then currently I'm working at PwC as a consultant in the M&A practice, so mergers and acquisitions. And so all of these areas have given me different experiences. I worked on different projects, which I'll talk through. But the key I want to just highlight here and pause on is all jobs at some level end up being just humans interacting with humans. And so your communication skills, the way you approach situations, those are really key, and those are very important. And it's something that you're learning, in school through your team projects and group work. But really, it's something that you'll continue working on and continue refining. And it's a journey, not a destination. So just have that continuous growth and kind of continuous improvement mindset. I think that is key. And then the other thing you should also be able to tell is, one person has done all these different things. So skills are transferable. So the things that you learn at UCLA, the things that you're learning in your research lab, the way you're structuring your time, the way you're prioritizing things, the way you're balancing multiple priorities, all those things do matter in the workplace. And those are, again, the skills, the soft skills, if you were, that you'll be building and continuing to build just in line with the communication and the human interaction piece. The other thing I want to talk about is building a career roadmap. So you'll hear me now as I'm talking about how I made these transitions, about having a vision, having kind of a roadmap of what I wanted to do, and kind of rebranding myself. I think that's also really important as you're going through your career. So right now you're at the undergrad level, you're doing your research. You're also looking at potentially post-undergrad jobs for now. But think longer term, right? What does like the 5-year, 10-year plan look like, and how do you want to map out your career with the information and it's an ever-evolving process, right? It'll iterate, you'll kind of pivot, but again, having that North Star vision is important. Another thing is focusing on what you can control. Right? None of us right now can control COVID, for example, but we are looking at ways to making the most of it, right? Example being this online pre-recorded video. The idea is these are all areas that may not be ideal, but a lot of times in these situations of crisis or in these areas, times of uncertainty, that's where the biggest opportunities are. And so really taking those as a positive and a move forward, as opposed to using it as an excuse on why you couldn't maybe do something that you would have otherwise wanted to do. And then the last thing I want to just call out there is enjoy the journey, right? This is a time of your life and also a career that's going to be uniquely yours. No one else will have a slide that looks exactly like this. No one else should have a slide that looks exactly like this, right? So this is my own journey, and it's something that I need to embrace and enjoy because it's something that makes me me. Just like in your journey, that makes you you. So really like enjoy that process. Embrace the opportunities and try to make the most of it. So just in the interest of reading every one of these things, I'm going to just talk high level. I encourage you to again focus on these. If you have specific questions, let's discuss them whenever we do meet next, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. But that era, right? So I was engineering. It was in the oil and gas industry, and so I was both a facilities engineer early in my career, and then I transitioned and became a production engineer. So as a facilities engineer, I'm really there to help with the oil dehydration. So you think when you produce, oil and gas from the earth, it doesn't just come out as oil that goes straight into your car. There's a lot of processing that happens. There's a lot of solids and water and gas that comes out of this fluid mixture that has oil in it. And so dehydrating the oil from the other components, also the water, we would generate steam with the water to then heat the oil. So think of our oil is heavy oil in California. So think of like butter, and you're trying to melt the butter to get the oil to flow more, right? So you think about viscosity and things like that. So we would soften the water, so get rid of calcium, magnesium, other ions, and that way when you're making steam and you vaporize the water, you're not leaving a lot of solid sediments behind that would then cause plugging in pipelines and could cause also other warping and heat imbalances because you're now making thicker material in the pipe walls. So I focused on that for a few years. And then I started looking at the production engineering side. This is actually the producing the oil from the subsurface to the surface. And as you are producing this oil, there's ways to optimize it, right? So you think of skin damage, which would be considered, so skin is basically any impediments to get your oil or fluids to flow from the reservoir into the wellbore. So that's kind of the process there. So I looked at a lot about optimizing that oil production. I would do different stimulation jobs. I would look at doing different reworks. I would look at lowering the pump depths or raising the pump depths based on where the most productive zones were. And some of the projects that I did that I really enjoyed were as part of a long-term strategy visioning session for an entire field. I also helped coordinate a shutdown. So there's a lot of different moving parts. There were over 150 people that were working in the field. So coordinating all the activities, understanding how to plan for these things, what resources are needed, what people are needed, what heavy equipment's needed. As you're working on different pipes, you're working on different valve replacements, you're working on different generators, you're working on different tanks, all these things, a lot of pieces there. That was a lot of fun. A long day, but a very rewarding day and a very rewarding project. Steam optimization I kind of talked about. And then I was also part of a culture and purpose, vision, and values renewal. So the company wanted to renew some of how they approach the situation and how they approach their own employees. So what's important, what are the benefits that are most critical? What kind of culture do we really want to create moving forward as an organization? So I was involved in that, which was great because as a relatively younger employee at the time, I had a very active voice thinking through what would be some of the areas, from a stakeholder group such as myself, what would we be looking for? Talking to a lot of, employees as well and peers at work and getting that full holistic perspective. So that was my time as an engineer, relatively brief if you look across all the different pieces there. But a very important one because it helped me again structure and ground myself. And I did apply some of the technical skills that I learned around understanding pressure drops across pipes, around how do I stimulate a wellbore. But there were a lot of technical skills that were also important, like the ones I kind of already alluded to in the bottom there. And so thinking through the vision and the roadmap of where I wanted to be headed, initially I thought I wanted a deeper dive into the reservoir and kind of the subsurface world of oil and gas. And so I decided to get a master's in petroleum engineering. My research was focused on corrosion inhibition, which was exciting, very, very unique and kind of novel as far as the area that I was focused on. Did not have a lot of application back at Era, which is where I was applying the technology because the environments were a little bit different. But I did study the corrosion side. It was a lot of offshore wells, a lot of deeper wells, and not really California specific. So again, broader context helped me get a bigger picture understanding, which I definitely appreciated. And the MBA was, again, I was looking at transitioning from oil and gas into consulting. And so when I got the MBA, which was a little bit later on, it was definitely helping me position myself and transition my job. And then the general projects across both grad schools, right? So during Anderson's, the MBA, I advised like a retail startup that sold hats, which is pretty unique and something I didn't know much about. And like the retail industry, like, a lot of engineers don't really know a lot about that initially, but getting to learn about it and realizing that how you approach the problem, the structure, the framework, all those things are very, very similar. Same thing, I also help with a branding exercise for an institution. Is actually the UCLA Global Institution. Worked on a team there. That was super rewarding because, how do you want to position yourself? How do you want to reach out to like your alumni base? How do you want to reach out to current students? How do you want to reach out to prospective students? How we kind of tailor the messaging and work on engaging different stakeholders because they all have like different needs that they're going for. So that was super exciting. I also did some case competitions. So the EAGE one, this was about an oil field competition. So basically we got data about, this was during A&M times, but we got data about the subsurface of an oil field, and we were trying to figure out what's the best production strategy. How would you forecast, what's the oil field worth? And so it had business components, but then it also had technical components. And that was an exciting project because you had to now basically have an opinion and a perspective with data to support why you would spend the resources and the time and the effort you would to develop it. We decided this was an oil field, this was in Europe. We wanted to do a water flood, and we had, specific data that backed up why we thought that would help increase our ultimate oil recovery and what the NPV, so the net present value of that transaction was, which was, again, very rewarding. And part of these things also helped me realize that I want to get an MBA in the future, and then eventually led me back to Anderson and UCLA. Thinking through teaching, this was a short time in my career. It was only a few months for a semester, but very important because, again, reaching different audiences, reaching different target people. Everyone learns a little bit differently. Like just because I learned math a certain way doesn't mean that's how you have to learn it. So being able to answer the same question different ways, different perspectives, that was a pretty key takeaway there. And it's also helped me in my other career because all my job experience, right? Not everyone is always in the same picture, the same wavelength as you. In your team projects or in your research, not everybody has the same level of understanding. So how do you simplify things, or how do you like look at answering the same question in a different way? The teaching experience really helped me on that, and humbled me in a lot of ways too, because not everybody has that same kind of learning mindset. So that was pretty cool, and also very key at the time. It also helped me contextualize math. So I tried to use more real world examples, right? Why do you have to budget things? Why is algebra important? Things like that, which again, we might feel is obvious, but to someone that is not very excited about math, that is, taking it as a course that they maybe because they had not done so well in the past, those are things that you really want to contextualize and focus to capture their attention and make sure that they're engaged in the lesson. I'm kind of on those things, and again, thinking through the communication side, thinking through the engineering, the masters, all those things that kind of led me to blogging. I said, energy is a very complex topic. There's lots of moving pieces to it. There are the technical pieces, there are the environmental pieces, there are the policy pieces, there are the political pieces. And so really understanding energy is a very, very challenging topic. And it cannot just be summarized like, in a quick tweet or in a quick one-line tagline. So I decided to spend some time researching it, so different sources, more on the technical side, but different sources of energy, different uses of energy, and like looking at different data sources to help build, a brand of blogging, and also like help share message, and also give people an opportunity to ask questions, to further engage with me. That was super awesome, and like leveraging social media. So I did it on LinkedIn. It's called Tuesdays with Tarang. It has, at the highest, it had like over 17,000 followers. Since then, I've kind of scaled back on it, but that's something that I definitely enjoyed, and happy to answer things around energy if anyone's interested. Very much of a passion of mine. And thinking through again, where do I want to go? I thought through consulting as being an option for the future for me, and kind of that's where I currently am. So I use the MBA, I use my technical knowledge, my communication skills that I built, And currently I'm working in the M&A Advisory practice for PwC. And so once we have a mergers acquisition, once there's a deal that gets announced, we help the companies like either integrate, so two companies coming together, right? So thinking through their different systems, their org structure, the different processes they have. And then also if there's a separation happening, understanding how the two companies will separate, what the disentanglement strategy is, and then how we can still, continue to operate business as usual for both sides while this transition is taking place. So that's kind of where I currently am. I've talked about some of the different projects that I'm working on. I'm aligned to mainly tech clients as well as some media. Telecom, not so much, but that's kind of the group that I'm sitting in. So the key takeaway again is lots of different pieces. It's about building your brand. What do you want next? I'm happy to answer questions around why I made the decisions I did during our Q&A. So feel free to jot those questions down. But really the idea was I'm trying to build a roadmap that goes from engineering as the kind of the starting point. But I decided that I wanted to branch out and move more into the business side, which is where consulting comes in, right? So thinking from engineer to consulting with some steps in the middle that involve both school and other opportunities. Okay, and then the last slide that I wanted to kind of talk through here, and I know I'm at about 31 minutes, so I'll try to keep this relatively brief, is really like what are the main takeaways. So I think engineering fundamentally, right, so you think about there are things that I have on the left there, we are involved in lots of pieces of almost everything that you and I use every day, right? So I've used the example of an iPhone just because it's easy to contextualize and everyone can relate. But when you think about an actual phone, right? I mean, someone had to dream it, to design it, and kind of see the whole list of items there. But almost all of those, if not every single one of them, requires some level of engineering, right? You have to think about what it is. You have to figure out how to scale that product. It's not just a drawing on a piece of paper, but it's an actual functioning tool that is helping us achieve something. In this case, phone calls, messaging, internet exploring, et cetera, et cetera. And think about all the engineers that are involved in that type of product, right? So you've got computer scientists, you've got electrical engineers from the hardware side, you got chemical engineers when you think about the batteries and how that's created, you've got mechanical engineers when you think about the heat transfer and the design requirements. You've also got just a bunch of like talent and focus around how this thing is product, how it's shipped, right? So infrastructure and how you build a facility that's going to mass produce these. A lot of civil engineering pieces there because you're probably using some sort of a building to make these products. So almost every single engineering discipline is involved in something as simple as an iPhone. And that's just one product. And there's millions of products that we use every single day. So the key takeaway there is engineers are used in lots and lots of different areas and lots of different ways. I just gave you a very small sampling with my career, but really the world is your oyster, and you can make what you want of it, especially for those of you that are doing research in specific areas that you're really passionate about. I think that's a really awesome thing, and I'm super proud of all of you guys for doing that. And then I also want to just leave you off quickly with two quotes that I've got from two people that at least I've read about and I've found value in. So the first is Coach Wooden, right? So I talked about him in kind of my high school journey when I read about the leadership pyramid and the pyramid of success. Just one of the quotes that meant a lot to me was kind of about teamwork, right? So if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, you need a team. So really, again, building those communication skills, the human-to-human interaction, regardless of what you end up doing, it's going to be critical to your success. And just realize that while you are great on your own, you could be even better on a team or being part of a team. So really take that one to heart. And then the second one from Winston Churchill is really around like success and failure, and just recognizing that you're only successful at the moment of the success, and if you do fail, like it's not permanent, right? So success is not final because again, you're only successful at the time that it happens. Failure is not fatal. You can recover. You can kind of get going again. Really, you have to be willing to take the courage, right, and continue. So the courage is to continue. That's what counts. So to me, those were two inspiring quotes that I wanted to leave you with. And then, like I said, I am excited to talk to you soon. I hope you guys are staying safe. I wish you a happy 4th of July. And yeah, look forward to talking to you on the 6th. If there are any questions you have, you can always reach out to me. You can reach out to Will and let him know. And from there, look forward to speaking to you soon. So with that, I will stop the recording, and I will say talk to you guys soon. Take care. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your attention.